Well, good evening, all, and thanks so much for joining us tonight for the fourth and last in our series, Ain't Gonna Let Nobody Turn Me Around, part of our music series, our Two Routes to Freedom. And I'm your host, Reggie Harris, this evening. I'm co-president of the Living Legacy Project. I thank you for all of you who have joined us in the preceding weeks. We've had some really amazing programs, and tonight is not going to be any different. Tonight we are calling this program Sankofa, as we look back to look forward, the legacy of folk music and the legacy of the civil rights movement. Folk music has celebrated the civil rights movement, but the larger issue has been that music has been part of the human community since there were humans. But we know that music has been part of every major movement and every minor movement probably in the history of our nation. And certainly the modern civil rights movement was no different. As a matter of fact, it was fueled by music. The songs, well, they gave people hope and they gave people the strength and courage to face what it was they needed to face. And of course, there were songwriters who also took that legacy and translated it into songs that also have carried the message forward. This song, for example, is one that was written by a friend, Greg Greenway. It's a mighty long way over yonder. Well, it's a mighty long way from there to here. We're gonna take it, oh yes, one step at a time, so that we can make that walk from there to here. It's a mighty long way over yonder. Well, it's a mighty long way from there to here. We're gonna take it, oh yes, one step at a time, so that we can make that walk from there to here. So we've got an hour of power tonight. We have three wonderful acts, four amazing people, musicians and activists, who have been steeped in the music of the civil rights movement, steeped in the legacy of the power of song. And they will share tonight with you their songs and their stories as we continue to look at how song has helped to transform and continues to help us in the challenging work that we are doing in the world. We're sorry tonight that we are not able to have Josh White Jr., who had planned to be with us. He unfortunately has fallen ill and sends all of you his best. We hope that we can host him at some other time. But tonight we have some really amazing friends of mine. Guy Davis, who is a multifaceted performer and storyteller, a blues man. Guy is a Grammy-nominated artist, and he is the winner of the Blues Foundation's Keeping the Blues Alive Award. He has starred off-Broadway. Guy is from a musical family that is, in many ways, part of the cultural legacy of the African-American diaspora and the African-American force in America. And he is here with us tonight to share his songs and stories. We have Faith Nolan, who comes to us from Canada. This Zoom presence is amazing. We can be anywhere in the world, and Faith is joining us tonight from Canada. And I first heard about Faith because of her album Afriqueville, which we'll talk a little bit about. But Faith is a choral conductor and has started choirs and is a community builder and an activist, a songwriter. She is just a remarkable human being who has spent years building up the community in Canada and in Nova Scotia. And she is with us tonight to share some news from the North. And starting off our program tonight are two people that are two of my favorite human beings in the world. Sandy O and Pat Humphries have long been at the center of just about anything that's happening in the intersectionality of our civil rights struggle. Their music has been used all around the world in all sorts of different ways: environmental, social justice. Their music has been sung for the Dalai Lama. It has been covered by Holly Near, who was with us last month, and also praised by Pete Seeger. So we have a wonderful night ahead of us. We're going to have some music and conversation, and we're going to start the evening off with Sandy O and Pat Humphries' Emma's Revolution.
Thank you so much. It's such a pleasure to be with you all here tonight. Um, this is a song that we wrote in response to the killing of George Floyd and the numerous others, Breonna Taylor, Ahmaud Arbery, and all the long, long, long list. And so, since it was during COVID time and we were not able to be out into the streets, we still wanted to create some materials so that people had things to sing, to express their grief, express their rage, and to draw everybody together around this really important issue. So it's a very easy song for you to pick up on. We would love to have you sing with us Zoom style. So. And actually, we did a video of this with Reggie.
So you have to imagine Reggie's fantastic bass part as we're singing it together with you.
Our people gonna rise. Our people gonna rise. Listen to our cries through the pain and lies. Our people gonna rise. Our people gonna sing.
Our people gonna sing.
Our people gonna sing. In spite of everything, hear our freedom ring. Our people gonna sing. Our people gonna fight.
Our people gonna fight.
Our people gonna fight for what we know is right. We're marching to the night. Our people gonna fight. Our people gonna grieve.
Our people gonna grieve.
Our people gonna grieve. Whatever you believe, we have the right to breathe. Our people gonna grieve. Our people gonna pray.
Our people gonna pray.
Our people gonna pray. Take our rights away. See you on election day. Our people gonna pray. Our people gonna rise.
Our people gonna rise.
Our people gonna rise. Listen to our cries through the pain and lies. Our people gonna rise.
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 Like that. Thanks for rising with us. And we are thrilled to pass it on to Faith way up north in Canada.
Thank you very much. I want to call you Tret so bad, and I know that's not the right name. Sandy, Emma's Revolution. That was a great song. It's really great to be part of this because, civil rights, obviously, and the music of the civil rights has definitely affected all of our lives by the inequalities that exist, creating inequalities, because it's all about the buck. So this is a song about the bucks, who's got the bucks and who hasn't got the bucks. I want to dedicate it to all of the people. I mean, I lived in Oakland for a while, and I saw so many people that were poor there, Black people, a lot of poor Black people in Arizona. And where I'm from in Nova Scotia, we have the largest slave population. And we're very much like the Georgia Sea Islands. I should actually do Africville. I'll do that next maybe. So this is a song called The Richest in the World. And thank you, Reggie, for having me. And Annette. Richest in the world, poorest in the heart. This dream has been a nightmare from the very start. These roads are built on native blood and Africans in chains. They call this a brand new world, and some even call it brave. Lust for the lawless, making profits overseas. You make a war, you make a villain, and you plunder all you need. Even COVID is a big business, from the west to the east. How many people haven't got vaccinated? We need a revolution and we need to call for peace. The richest in the world well, now this great system, it means the wicked do survive. The IMF, the CIA, the World Bank, and the FBI. Richest in the world, poorest in the heart. The stream has been a nightmare from the very start. Look at Kuwait and Indonesia. Look at the Congo, the province of Greece. From Palestine to China, it's killing me. The richest in the world, so poor in the heart. Let's start a revolution and make a country called peace. Let's start a revolution and let's call out peace. Thank you. And the next person is going to be Guy. Oh, sorry, Guy.
Okay, let's get me unmuted.
You did it.
I did it? Okay. All right. Well, good evening, everybody. So glad that I can be here along with Faith and Emma's Revolution. I mean, I'm having a good time already. Missing Josh Jr. I want to take this back to the past, to a song that you heard back when the Freedom Riders were riding on those buses. And since then, you've heard it many places. Ain't gonna let nobody turn me around, turn me around, turn me around. Ain't gonna let nobody turn me around. I'm gonna keep on walking, keep on talking, marching up to freedom land. Ain't gonna let segregation turn me around, turn me around, oh, turn me around. Ain't gonna let segregation turn me around. I got to keep on walking, keep on talking, marching up to freedom land. Ain't gonna let George Wallace turn me around, oh, turn me around. Ain't gonna let George Wallace turn me around. Got to keep on walking, keep on talking, marching up to freedom. Ain't gonna let the Selma turn me around, turn me around, turn me around. Selma, Alabama ain't gonna turn me around. I got to keep on walking, keep on talking, freedom land. Ain't gonna let Bull Connor turn me around, turn me around, turn me around. Ain't gonna let Bull Connor turn me around. I got to keep on walking, keep on talking, marching up to freedom. Ain't gonna let nobody, ain't gonna let nobody turn me around, turn me around, turn me around. Ain't gonna let nobody turn me around. I'm gonna keep on walking, keep on talking, marching up to freedom. Ain't gonna let injustice turn me around, turn me around, turn me around. Ain't gonna let turn me around. Keep on walking, keep on talking, marching up to freedom. The gerrymander, ain't gonna let the gerrymander turn me around, turn me around, turn me around. Ain't gonna let gerrymander turn mountain up to freedom land. And God bless Stacey Abrams and people who stand up and look it right in the eye and say, no, you ain't gonna turn us around.
Yay!
Thank you, Reggie.
Oh, y'all got the folks singing. Yes, indeed.
Good. I guess we'll hand it back to Emma's Revolution, or back
Actually,
to you.
I'm going to jump in here and yeah, y'all, each of you started with songs that were really so deep into the fabric of what the music of the civil rights movement was. Songs that are stating a point of view, stating a perspective, but also really tied into the spirit of humanity and singable. And that in itself is sort of the power of music. Sandy and Pat, we're talking Sankofa tonight. We're talking about looking back and seeing what the history of these songs are, what the history of this cultural revolution has been. You want to share a little bit about sort of what brought you into the movement? What about the music inspired you to take it up?
I benefited from growing up when that series Eyes on the Prize was just being created, and I saw that on PBS, and also started learning through friends about things like the music of the Georgia Sea Islands. That music blew my mind. Of course, I never heard that on the radio, growing up.
Yeah,
and
right.
and when I heard about it, I needed to know more about it, and the connection between the sacred musics and that confluence of sacred music and movement music. And I learned about Pete Seeger, who also introduced me to a lot of this music. When I learned about him when I was really started to get to know who he was, I think when I was maybe in middle school. And he was another person that just kind of brought it all together for me. And then I learned about the Highlander school, and all the organizing that happened there. And of course, the thing I remembered most were the songs. That's what really grabbed me. That's what helped teach me the history.
Sandy?
Yeah, I was going to say a little bit similarly. I couldn't care less. I couldn't have cared less about history from reading them from books or being taught in school. But what really stuck with me was that song, "For Dead in Ohio." That taught me something as a fourth grader. Later, a few years after that. And then I had the opportunity, when I started to write songs, they were about my perspective as a woman and what it was like to have been a girl raised in this culture. And one of the first songs I wrote was for an organization called the International Wages for Housework Campaign when I was living in London. And, I saw an exhibit of artwork by kids about the work they were doing in their home. And that so resonated with me that I wrote a song. I took it to an event by the International Wages for Housework Campaign, and they had me sing it twice. I sang it, and then they had me come back up on stage to sing their message to them. And knowing that my song could do that work of supporting their message and supporting something that I cared about, I was hooked.
Wow. So you were right into the rallies and the protest from a very early point.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And
Wow.
but through the music, that was the part, that taught me, that was the part that got my attention, that was the part that, and still is the part that keeps me going.
It's really funny. A lot of our discussion and singing during this series, and even in our civil rights struggle series last year, really talking about the intersectionality of these movements, but particularly the civil rights movement coming up as a very visible music-driven movement. And your music is used so often now in a variety of different ways. Would you talk a little bit about how people have embraced your music in somewhat the same way that you embraced music that connected you to these struggles that are obviously so very much a part of our everyday life?
Yeah, we've been really lucky, and some of Pat's early songs that I can't take any credit for are the songs that have gone around the world and have brought us after the fact, to the demonstration at outside the School of the Americas outside the School of the Americas. They'd been singing "Keep on Moving Forward" for years
Like 10
before,
years.
yeah, before they said, why don't you come down and lead it to the 25,000 people who are there. So it's been your songs that have traveled, and now songs that we write together, like Peace, Salam, Shalom.
Well, and I never wanted to sing by myself, you know, and when I first started writing songs, I was playing by myself, and I thought, well, I was already singing at demonstrations and things by this time. I had just left college at this point, and I went to school at Kent State, and I was similarly affected by the killings at Kent State, the date of which just passed here on May 4th. So I thought, well, I'm gonna write a song that people can instantly sing, you know, with me on. So I wrote "Keep on Moving Forward" at this workshop that I went to with Sai Khan at the Omega Institute in 1984. And something about that song, I just thought, you know, it was very, very informed by all the music I had heard before, the songs of the Civil Rights Movement, the songs of Appalachia, which I had just been exposed to, you know, through friends at college. So it definitely drew upon those traditions. And I think because it drew upon those traditions, it was a simple and repetitive sort of song, people picked it up right away. Even that week at the Omega Institute, people learned that song really quickly and took it back home with them, and then added verses and sang it at the different events that they were going to, and it traveled around the world that way, really by word of mouth.
Yeah, I just want to add this little moment where Pat was going to be doing a concert. I just know the story. I wasn't there, but she was going to do a concert, and, you know, and the person who was introducing said, okay, but before we start, I'm going to do this old gospel song. And then she launched into Keep on Moving Forward.
Yeah, well, well, writing in the frame, and, you know, so much of the civil rights movement really came out of the songs, came out of the spirituals frame, you know, and that simplistic, but, you know, connected passionately to the human struggle. And I think some of your songs certainly have really brought that into this present time. You want to grace us with another song?
Yeah, you know, I thought that we should sing one of the songs that Guy Carawan brought. Again, you know, he was somebody that was deeply affected by the traditions of the on St. Simon's Island and in Georgia Sea Islands, and he was the song leader at the Highlander school, and you know, that was one of those huge places of intersectionality where people trained together and sang together and cried together. So let's sing this one. Ain't you got a right to the tree of life? Ain't you got a right?
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 Ain't you got a right
To the tree of life. Rocky was the road.
Ain't you got a right?
Perilous was the journey.
Ain't you got a right?
Ain't you got a right? Ain't you got a right to the tree of life? All of my sorrow,
Ain't you got a right?
soon be over.
Ain't you got a right?
Ain't you got a right?
Ain't you got a right to the tree of
life? Gonna tell all my brothers.
Ain't you got a right?
Tell all my sisters.
Ain't you got a right?
Gotta tell it to the world.
Ain't you got a right to the tree of life?
Ain't you got a right?
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 Ain't you got a right to the tree of life?
My life will be sweeter got it right?
Ain't you got it right?
Ain't you got it right?
Ain't you got it right to the tree of life?
Oh, thank you. That is certainly one of the classics. And of course, it was at Highlander that the song We Shall Overcome also was one that rose up and became part of the movement. Thanks so much. Faith. You know, Faith, I don't know whether I ever got a chance to thank you, but it was during the time that Kim and I were starting to focus ourselves on the Underground Railroad and how music was used in that great movement, and of course, later became part of the civil rights movement. But we came across your album Afriqueville.
Oh, yeah.
And I had no idea about the struggle of Afro Canadians, the whole idea of how many people here had fled north in after the Revolutionary War, the connections between slavery and civil rights. So it was you who really brought that to my knowledge, and I'm very grateful for that. And then years later, having the opportunity to come to Nova Scotia and go to Shelburne and go
Oh,
to
you
Halifax.
did.
Yeah,
Cool.
yeah.
Yeah.
So how are you? How are things there? You know, the music that you have been raising up, and the struggle is long, but you have really embraced that struggle.
Well, I think I really didn't have a choice. I mean, I feel like I was born 1957, Rich, and I'm mixed race too, black is, black, but I obviously, I grew up going to school and being called names and just incredible kinds of being beaten up because of the color of my skin. So it wasn't something that I kind of went towards or heard. It was living it. At the same time, I was lucky. Sorry, my dog just came in. I was lucky that James Brown was singing "I'm Black and I'm Proud." I mean, I was very, very lucky. And was it Marvin Gaye was singing "Mercy, Mercy, Mercy Me," things ain't what they used to be. All of these wonderful songs and the pictures of Angela Davis on my wall. And of course, in Nova Scotia, having grown up there is like Mississippi. I mean, people never talk about that sort of side of how we had miscegenation laws. We had signs there were no colors allowed, and very much like the South, but that it's not acknowledged. So, and also our history has never been acknowledged by Canada, or yeah. So when I did the album Africa, I had to sort of research because I was like, how did we wind up all these Black people? We have over 50 all Black communities in Nova Scotia. And I couldn't understand, how did we wind up here? My grandmother used to say when she crossed the border, because it's close to Massachusetts, she crossed and then people would say, who are you? And she'd say, I'm Scotian. And they'd say, no, you're African. And she'd say, African? Because she had no idea. I mean, it was just that, it was like, history gets erased. I think, the way that colonization works, I think with definitely with the British, it's kind of like a hidden thing. Like Britain had slavery, obviously, and all of Europe made their money on it. And so did the US. But the US has acknowledged it, I think, much more so than many other countries. And because it was a huge business. So anyways, finding my heritage and doing Africa was important for me just to find out where we came from. So my sister used to tell me, we came from a spaceship. Like, my mother said we came from the garbage cans. I was like, where the hell did we come from? So, I had to find out. And so that was kind of, so civil rights music was kind of, growing up there, like "Oh Freedom," the song, they sing that a lot in Nova Scotia. And then I realized they sing it in almost every African Baptist church, and all of the Black Methodist churches too sing it. So that song in itself, was a kind of a cry for freedom. Oh, freedom over me. Before I'll be a slave, I'll be buried in my grave. So those kinds of songs from, I think, the time I was born, hearing those. And then, of course, the civil rights movement in the 60s had a huge impact. And, of course, finding out about Marie Joseph Angelique, who was a slave burned in Montreal in the 1700s, who refused to be a slave. That really, set my spirit on fire, how this could happen, and what kind of a, woman, like what kind of a woman who fought against slavery on her own, and then they told her, you'll be a slave or we'll burn you. So they burned her downtown. I mean, that's the inception of this country. not to mention the genocides, of course, of indigenous peoples. So the very foundation. So once I realized that, I think all of the movements, being queer, anytime, it used to be like queers used to be poor. It was almost a given. Like if you were known queer, you were losing your job. You weren't going to have a place to live. Obviously, if you were black, like my father, he wasn't allowed to play his jazz guitar because he was black, right? He wasn't given good gigs. He had to suffer. So all of those things really kind of led me towards wanting, equality and freedom. And this is something that is innate to every human being, and not just for me. I mean, it has to be all over the world, right? Like kind of every struggle and every people. You can't just have it. So I feel very attached to African Americans, of course, and Africans and Brazilians and Cubans and Caribbeans, because we're all kind of, suffering this incredible poverty. Like someone did a study and they said that 75% of Black people live in poverty globally. And that's kind of astounding. And so the music but the music of struggle for freedom is so powerful. Like when you think of the Mahatola Queens from South Africa, or it's Bernice Reagan Johnson and Asuhani Narako, and you, Reggie and Kim, your music has really, and Guy, I mean, that music sets the pace and the tone of people still struggling for equality, still fighting the good fight. And that's so important because if you don't know that, you don't survive. You can't, you put it on yourself. You say something wrong with me. You know what I mean? If you don't understand the institutionalization. So
that is certainly one of the things, the internalized depression that comes in from all, just constantly having to absorb those messages. How has the music changed for you in this present time?
Well, I think right now, I mean, it was. I don't know. Like this year, I got a lot of gigs, and I always say, it's tokenism, and Black Lives Matter, because people are feeling guilty, right? So it's like, oh, let's get all these black. And then, of course, with the queer movement being so strong now, I mean, it's so mainstream. Or getting more, sometimes they need a little color, but maybe I won't feel that way one day. But I do feel like it kind of goes on that train.
Yeah.
And I'm not saying that, you're not incredibly talented. Anybody else is. And I don't know if you notice an upswing in your gigs or whatever.
Well, I noticed an upswing in the conversations people want to have to me about the music.
Okay.
It's become everybody's favorite conversation.
Yeah, of course. So I think it's a good thing that people, like, it's become a popular movement like it was in the 60s and 70s. The young people are really hip and really able to talk about young Black white people too, are really able to talk about anti-racism and what does that mean, and intersectionality, of course. But it's kind of like, if you're Black in the United States, 85% of Black in the United States are poor. 75% of Afro-Nova Scotians are poor. So the sort of race and class going hand in hand, right?
Yeah.
The poverty and obviously. So it's a very interesting. We have to talk about what that means, because there's no point in a man having his foot up your ass because he's taking the money out your pocket. You know what I mean? It's so important to connect those two. So I think within every struggle, that is the bottom line. And if they can turn the struggle to make a buck off it, well, but we need a world that's safe and viable and sustainable. And I think that's kind of what music is. Most people writing music are trying to say that.
Amen to that. Take us somewhere.
I'll take you to I was talking so much about Africa, I feel like if I don't do it, I'll be kind of selling out. And if anybody from down home is listening, this is everybody comes from someplace, and that's the place you call your home. You go there every day and you lay your head down and you feel like it's your own, and you have a little neighborhood, maybe a community center, maybe you have a food store, maybe you have a gym, parks. Well, what would you feel now? Like that. You know what happened to Africville? What happened to Africville? My friend Joey came to Toronto and left his family there. His daughter went crazy, can't stand it here. 800 people, Black people, torn from the land. Now when you go home, where do you stand? What happened? What happened to Africville? You know my grandma spent her life living there. When they tore Africville down, she went to a high rise somewhere. No more community and no more home. Out of the high-rise window, she was alone. What happened? What happened to Africville? What happened to Harlem? What happened? What happened to Joburg? What happened to Brazil? You know, the government got a bulldozer in 1969 and tore Africville down to crying times. So ashamed of the way they treated people without water, hydros or foam. Instead of doing right, they tore it down. What's happened? What's happened to Palestine? What's happened? What's happened to the Northwest Territories? What's happened to the land? Oh. Well, now the government does its thing. It's a just us, not justice. It's just us for them. What's happened? That's what happened. Africville. And once again, my fave blues guy, we're going to go to Guy. All right, Guy.
Thank you, Faith.
Thank
Guy
you.
Davis.
Okay, I'm in here somewhere. There I go.
When we talk about Sankofa and looking back, we certainly would be talking about the blues. And you have been a blues man extraordinaire. So in so many different formats and so many different venues. And I'm just really struck by the legacy of not only the music that you celebrate, but also the music that you write. What got you tuned into the blues?
First time I heard it, it was being sung by white college boys on a street corner. And at that time, I didn't know it was black music.
Wow.
But it felt special. Some part of it felt like it was already inside of me. And it had a lot to do with the way my grandmother spoke when I went home. She was living with us then. There's a language, there's a sound to the words, the way that they rub against your ears. So I felt like this music was already inside of me before I knew clearly what it was, because I didn't hear it in the home growing up. We had some jazz, we had Olatunji's Drums of Passion, we had Harry Belafonte. But between the stories that my grandmother told me about their coming up, she and my granddad, the racism they faced, the hurt, the hard times, they were the community's go-to people. They were, in fact, blues people, even if they did not promulgate blues music. With one caveat, my grandfather, I'm told, used to, quote, choke a harp. You take the harmonica and play it. I never heard him play a single note.
Wow.
But I was very gratified when one day I played it around my grandmother. She said, you know, you sound a little bit like your granddad. And I said, that's all right. That's all I wanted to hear.
Wow. You know, the blues don't often get celebrated as a music of protest, but they really are.
I'm thinking this is music about the human condition.
Yeah.
And you heard the tales about how sometimes when the brother's out there walking behind the mule plowing, and he's singing supposedly to the mule and himself about his baby, and something he don't like, he could be singing about the master, about the boss man, the captain. So yes, there were ways that blues is history. I mean, it's American history with a musical face.
So how has you have a new CD out, and you have Grammy nominated CDs, and how has this present time of unrest and turmoil affected your writing, your music?
Oh man, I don't have all the words to explain the feelings that run through me every day. I look at that television screen and they showed George Floyd being murdered so many times I cannot watch anymore. I know what happens, but when I see it, when they show that clip, I have to turn my face. It is so horrible and so ugly. My parents stopped celebrating Christmas the way we were used to back in 1963. This was in the year that not only John Kennedy was assassinated, but those 4 girls in Alabama were killed by a church bomber. They said, no, we got to stop. We can't just go with the okey doke here and just celebrate this commercial Christmas. So we had to create a way to do that recognized ourselves and our people. And remember, our people are the world's people.
Yeah.
I've had time, because of the ugliness, also because of COVID, to write a lot. I've written songs. Some have taken me years. Some I've written just during this time of COVID. And in a couple of minutes, I'm going to sing you one of them.
All right. Well, why don't you take us there?
Okay. And thank you, Reggie, by the way. Thank you very much for inviting me to be part of this.
Well, it's my pleasure, my brother. We have had a relationship of many years, and I just, I love having your voice in the community. It's a strong voice of passion and a strong voice of story narrative, and that is really where change so much comes from.
Well, I got a story to tell you. This is about the Tulsa Massacre. They used to call it riot, but it was a massacre. Tulsa, Oklahoma is 1921. There was a section of Tulsa called Greenwood, known as the Black Wall Street. During this massacre, the white folks burned it to the ground. People may be slaves, buried down in nameless graves. You know God's gonna make things over one of these days. Tulsa, Oklahoma, 1921. That's when the killing had just begun. God's gonna make things over one of these days. It ain't right, Lord, it ain't right what the white folks did in Tulsa on that night. W. Tate Brady was an evil man. He was a member of the Ku Klux Klan. And God's gonna make things over one of these days. Negroes begging down on their knees, white folks hanging them up in trees. You know God's gonna make things over one of these days. It ain't right, Lord, it ain't right what the white folks did in Tulsa on that night. There was money in Greenwood town, white folks burned it to the ground. You know God's gonna make things over one of these days. Black doctor raised his hands up high, and they shot him just to watch him die. God's gonna make things over one of these days. It ain't right, Lord, it ain't right what the white folks did in Tulsa on that night. Tell me, what did you learn when you watched my body burn? You know God's gonna make things over one of these days. When you hang me from a tree, raise me high so my people see. You know God's gonna make things over one of these days. It ain't right, Lord, it ain't right what the white folks did in Tulsa on that night. It ain't right, Lord, it ain't right what the white folks did in Tulsa on that night.
Show enough, show enough, show enough. Thank you, Guy Davis.
You're welcome. That's going to be one of the tunes on the new CD, by the way.
I can't wait to hear it. I'll be singing it till that CD is out. Oh, Emma, it's Revolution.
Yeah. Wow. That is a beautiful, powerful, and just,
Heartbreaking.
yeah,
Well,
song. Thank you for that.
and the 100th anniversary of that horrible, horrible night coming up here. I was just reading something about how there is still one living survivor, who's 106 years old. Color Change just put something out. And that city got $3 million.
30 million.
$30 million to create a memorial. And that woman who is a survivor have still never reconciled with her. So I was just thinking about that. Just before you sang that. Wow. Well, you know, half of my family is from the South, and half from the North, and we always had really troubling conflicts over that. As long as my father was around, you know, he grew up poor in the South and had a lot of really problematic views on the world, and the rest of my five sisters and I were determined that we were going to counterbalance that worldview with everything we did the rest of our lives, and also to bring into the world into our consciousness some awareness of our ancestors on that side of the family who were Cherokee and their struggle. It's many generations back, but it really affected us very deeply. So justice runs deep in my family, and the need to educate ourselves about these issues and sing about them and write about them.
Right. And I come from Jewish ancestors who, we had things we were having to deal with and escape and live through. So singing is part of it, and coming together. One guy, when you were singing that song, we right away answered that it ain't right, singing it ain't right. So in this song, there's the part for folks to answer back with us. And we originally wrote this song just with a climate focus about putting out the fire of climate change. But by the time we were able to put together the video of this song with these amazing and wonderful African-American performers, women performers from Oakland who played with us, Vicki Randall, Shelley Doty, Coffee Brown, it was well into the situation with the killing of George Floyd. And so we expand the vision of it and the vision of that video to include putting out the fire of white supremacy. So when you sing this with us, sing those words, put out the fire, for all of these fires of injustice that we need to put out together.
Put out the fire, put out the fire, put out the fire, our house is on fire. Put out the fire, put out the fire, put out the fire, our house is on fire.
We love you, we hear you, we commit to change our ways, not later, but sooner, right now, for your future. Youth can't wait,
Put out the fire,
women can't wait,
put out the fire,
the planet can't wait,
put out the fire, our house is on fire.
for our children
Put out the fire,
and their children
put out the fire,
and their children,
put out the fire, our house is on fire.
for songbirds, for cleaning,
For the oceans and the bays, not later, but sooner, right now, for our future.
melting glaciers,
Put out the fire,
rising seas,
put out the fire,
bleaching coral,
put out the fire, our house is on fire.
shrinking shorelines,
Put out the fire,
sinking islands,
put out the fire,
growing dry
put
lands.
out the fire, our house is on fire.
Let bees live, let trees grow,
Let the snow fall where it may, not later, but sooner, right now, for our future, right now, for the future, right now. We are here to put out the fire. This is how we put out the fire. Time is now. We put out the fire. Our house is on fire.
Well, all right. Put out the fire.
Thank you so much, Reggie. And let's bring back Faith Nolan to sing us another powerful song.
Thank you. That was great. Put out that fire. And I love that song, guy. That's great. I got to get that album too. This is a song I wrote a long time ago, but it's about women in jails. I did a When I first went into a jail, was probably in the 70s. Well, when I first went, I was probably 11 years old, but I was actually put in jail. But and then I think I was locked up again. I was 19. But then I went to a jail like after I became a person who could play guitar and sing. And then I went in there to play and sing, and I saw some of my cousins in there from Nova Scotia, and I got really interested in the whole idea of the prison industrial complex and what that meant. So I wrote the song called Sisters in the Shadow about, these are true stories of women. Some of the women I met, they're my cousin, who's now deceased, unfortunately. Um, and it's called Sisters in the Shadow. And I'd like to dedicate this because there's still, especially in the US, which is the biggest incarcerating country in the world. And of course, Canada has an incredibly high percentage of Black and Indigenous people in the jails. So I'd like to dedicate it to all of prisoners, wherever they may be and under what circumstances they may be. I think patriarchy creates a prison or a war zone for women too, but hey. I hate jails, I hate bars, I hate chains, I hate laws that got my sister in the shadow, behind the shade. They don't see you, and they don't hear you when we call. Johnny Bill was 16, an Inuit girl, torn from her home, from her reserve. They take your language, they take your land, put you in jail by a white man in the shade. I hate your jail, I hate your bars, I hate the chains, I hate the laws that got my sister in the shadow, behind the shade. Nobody sees, nobody hears when you call. Leo came from Africa, Nova Scotia land, beaten and abused by strange white men. Beat her, mistreated, called her a slave, still fought back. He's in the grave, she's in the shadow, sister behind the shade. Big old business all over the world, don't need no plantation, got a new reserve, sitting in the jail, sitting behind the shade. Nobody sees, nobody hears you when you call. So many people dying in Africa today, 'cause they got no pills, no shots for COVID, you say. Ain't got the money, they're sitting in that shade. The rich are getting richer, and the poor is dying in the shade. All over India, I hate them jails, I hate the bars, I hate them chains, I hate them laws. They got the people in the shadow, behind the shade. Nobody sees, nobody hears. Every day they call. Okay.
Well, all right.
Thank you for listening. Oh, I don't know what to do. Thank you, Guy.
Okay, I guess things
I
are.
forgot to introduce you, Guy. I'm sorry.
Also, darling, it's
Okay.
all good. It's all good. Hi, I'm Guy. Okay. Back in 2014, January, I saw Pat Humphrey standing by the bedside of Pete Seeger. He lay there dying. She was singing music to him. Everybody came, they sang, they paid tribute. And here is one of the songs of our master, our inspirer, our mentor. If I had a hammer, I'd hammer in the morning. I'd hammer in the evening, all over this land. I'd hammer out danger, I'd hammer out warning, I'd hammer out love between my brothers and my sisters, all over this land. If I had a bell, I'd ring it in the morning, I'd ring it in the evening, all over this land. I'd ring out danger, I'd ring out warning, I'd ring out love between my brothers and my sisters, all over this land. If I had a song, I'd sing it in the morning, I'd sing it in the evening, all over this land. I'd sing out danger, I'd sing out warning, I'd sing out love between my brothers and my sisters, all over this land. I've got a hammer and I've got a bell, and I've got a song to sing all over this land. The hammer of justice is the bell of freedom. It's a song about love between my brothers and my sisters, all over this land. It's the hammer of justice, it's the bell of freedom. It's a song about love between my brothers and my sisters, all over this land.
All over this land. Thank you, Guy Davis. Thank you, Faith Nolan. Thank you, Emma's Revolution, for a powerful and connective night of music. And for those of you who have a little bit more time to spend with us, you're going to look in the chat and you will see that there is a link where you can join us for a little bit more conversation. And we'll be meeting there, and you can ask questions or give some reflections to what this program might have brought up for you. The music of civil rights, the music of human rights. This is what the Living Legacy Project is committed to sharing not only the music, but the stories of those who have in the past worked to bring true justice to our world. And as we continue in this time of raised awareness, but also raised hateful activity, we realize that we will continue. We will need to continue to band together to raise up the songs and tell the stories as we let the world know that we will not rest until the storm is over. We will let nobody turn us around. I'd like to thank the Living Legacy Board, all of our volunteers. Certainly great thanks to Annette Marquis, who has been not only our operations manager, but also is the technician who makes sure that we can see each other and that this program is a success technically. And thank you again to Pam Zeppardino for manning the chat room. And thank you again to all who have joined us for this journey. Stay tuned to livinglegacypilgrimage.org for upcoming events, and for also when we begin to take people to those places again where the civil rights movement was and is a powerful force in American justice. Thank you again for joining us, and thanks again to our performers. We'll see you in the chat room. Take care.